Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner Studio, and with me today is Karen Poff. Karen is do you still call yourself extension agent?
Yes,
I guess you do.
that's correct.
She's a extension agent with the Virginia Cooperative Extension Office, which is part of Virginia Tech, right?
Yes, we're a part of the land-grant universities, and there's an office in most every county and city.
Yeah,
across the
it's
state.
kind of an interesting thing. I think I tell people it's kind of like a hidden gem somewhere. There's a lot of things going on in your office that, the average
That's true.
person doesn't really know what you do. I met her at the One Stop Resource Center at DSS that they have there every Wednesday afternoon from 1 to 4. So if you're in need of some sort of service, that's a good place to start. Good call, One Stop Resource Center. So
Right.
Michelle Smelcher has set that up over there, so it's great. So we talked about things that they do at your office, and one of the things we mentioned was the thing called Quick Money Chats. So tell us what that's about, Karen.
That's a new program that we have that's really designed to get people answers to their financial questions. And a lot of people have financial questions. They're not sure where to go to get them answered, or they may go to Google and get not necessarily the wrong answers, but an answer that may not be correct for their own personal situation.
Or the state they live in.
Or the state they live in, right. Or not, there may be a local resource available to them that Google doesn't know about.
Sure,
So
sure.
the idea is that, we're financial management experts in this 5-county area, and we're happy to be available to answer people's questions or connect them with the right place. I mean, if it's a legal question, we're not attorneys, but we can get them to a place where they can get legal advice or where they can get investing advice or whatever.
So what kind of questions do people normally ask you?
We get a lot of questions about credit. So how to get my credit report, how to get my credit score, how my credit score is going to affect my interest rates, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, especially when people are looking at home mortgages, there's a lot of advertisements that refinance, and some people should ask a lot of questions before they get too far into the process, wouldn't you think?
You're absolutely right. We actually did recently have a question about refinancing, and I loved that question because the person called or set up a chat before they actually started the process. So they didn't make a mistake first and then call us and try to fix it.
That's normally what we do. We make the mistake first, then we try to dig ourselves out of the hole.
Right. And she actually, contacted us and said, I want to refinance. What things should I consider? And we had lots of resources available for her. There was a worksheet that helps you figure out your break-even point.
Exactly.
So that how long do you have to live in the house before you break even to figure out, is it worth it to refinance or not?
Yeah, because there's always hidden cost. And that people say, well, there's no charge, no free. Well, whenever someone says it's free, that's when you should look a little deeper, because there's always strings attached to free, isn't there?
Absolutely. And what happens with those costs when there's no closing costs, those costs are built into the whole life of the loan. So now instead of paying, say the couple of $1,000s right now, you're going to pay interest on it for 15 to 30 years.
Well, that's like people that refinance and add a dishwasher and a stove and a refrigerator. They don't realize they're paying for 30 years for those appliances, which will be replaced once or twice during the life of the loan. So that's an awful expensive refrigerator, different things like that. I know people have done that.
Exactly. So we're able to give people, maybe they want to buy a car, maybe they want to save for their child's college education, maybe they want to go back to school themselves, all those kinds of things. We can give them basically the information that they need. We're not going to give advice in telling someone you should do this or that. We're going to give them the resources and the information, the pros and cons to different things that they might be considering, and then they make their choice, and hopefully it's a better informed choice, and it really suits their financial situation.
So let's say we said, well, like what you do. So let's go back to what you don't do, because sometimes that's probably an important question to ask. You're not a loan officer. I mean, you're not.
Right. We don't have money, so
they have no money. So
right, we're a state agency, so but so we can't give people financial assistance with anything, but we do know the local resources again, so we can connect them with the one-stop shop or the rental assistance program or those sorts of things that maybe could provide some financial assistance. we don't give legal advice. Obviously, we're not attorneys, but there are a couple of different ways to get reasonably cost legal advice. So there's a Blue Ridge Legal Services for people with a lower income level, but there's also the Virginia Lawyer Referral Service that a lot of people don't know about, and you can have any income level to take advantage of that. So we can, and if we have time, I can tell people more about that.
Sure.
So with the Virginia Lawyer Referral Service, it's a service of the Virginia State Bar, and the attorneys sign up to volunteer for this service, and you get 30 minutes of legal advice for $35. So, and it's a local attorney. I mean, you call and say, I'm in Front Royal, here's my zip code, and I need a real estate attorney, or I need a divorce lawyer, or whatever it is that you need. Then they give you the next local attorney that's on the list, and you pay the $35 when you call, and then you schedule your 30-minute consultation, which is that's extremely reasonable.
That's of course, part of that is the lawyers are looking for customers, but at the same time, the lawyers, believe it or not, do a lot of pro bono work.
Exactly. And even if, just depending on the situation, if you list out all your questions, you can get a whole lot done in 30 minutes, as long as you don't go off on rabbit trails.
Right.
You may need to proceed with your case, or maybe they tell you how to do it yourself.
Exactly.
Here's the form you need to file. Go file this with the circuit
pay your
court.
$5 and go do it, right?
Yeah, and so it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. If you need something more like a will or a legal document, then they're going to tell you what their rates are. No obligation. You don't have to follow through with it, but you got your 30 minutes.
Right. I go to the doctor, I make a list. He says, okay, what's on the list?
Right.
And they all want to book you these 5-minute appointments. When I call up and said, I don't want a 5-minute appointment. I need 20 minutes,
Exactly.
I want to get my money's worth.
Exactly.
One of the things we talked about when we met over at your one-stop resource center was we talked about money, but it's something the schools have kind of started to do now. But I noticed that years ago they called it home ec. When now they have a new name for it. But to teach young people about money. Simple things that we do in life. Life skills regarding money. It's just like one of those things that people just assume everybody knows how to do it, but they really don't.
Definitely. And that's family and consumer studies. I'm not sure the exact name
they all
that
have
they
a
have
little
it
different
in
name.
the schools. But
we used to call it consumer math.
Right.
But learn how to balance your checkbook and learn about credit cards and those
Right.
kind of things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now there is a 1-semester class required for all students to graduate. That's called Economics and Personal Finance.
Right.
And one of the programs that we do with the schools is called, we have 3 versions of it, but the high school version is called Reality Store. And a lot of people are familiar with it because the Chamber of Commerce in Front Royal did that in the past. But they're no longer doing it, and we had been doing it in all the other counties, so we brought it here as well. And the students get a life. They may be married, they may have children, they have a certain job and a certain salary, and they go around the room and spend their money. They have a month's worth of their salary to spend. They pick their housing, they pick the different sections, and that really teaches them a whole lot about financial management.
They run out of money before they run out of list.
They do, and they say surprising things like, wow, I'm going to go home and thank my parents. I never knew how hard it was,
Right.
So
With that $25 a month rent they're charging me for, it's pretty cheap. Right?
right. But we have that at 3 different levels: the 11th grade, 8th grade, and 3rd grade, and it's age appropriate. The little guys only are responsible for themselves. They don't have a whole family full of people to be responsible for. But and that actually is something that we can use volunteers for. So if people are interested in helping out with something like that, they can give me a call and we can put them on the list to help out with that.
Well, we're going to list in the story of how this money chat thing works. She has a list. Mark, you can zoom in here on this little flyer right here, and you can see there's a few items, and we'll put that in the story and gives a location of where everyone's supposed to go. But basically, you go to the website, you put in your information, it sends it to you, you look at it, and then you assign it to the appropriate people, and then they contact the people back, and have a discussion.
Right. And that way, it's just your contact information. We're not asking for anything
We don't
personal.
we don't need your personal life history there.
Just how to get in touch with you, what time of day you're available,
Okay.
and or evening or weekend. It's not just business hours. It's
Okay.
any time. If you're only available Sunday afternoons, we've got a volunteer who can contact you on Sunday afternoons. That's, you just check that off in the list.
Good.
And then what your question is, and that helps me match up with a volunteer who fits your schedule, who can then contact you back and schedule the chat.
Well, Karen, it sounds a lot of work, but it's a great service. And I know they do a lot of other things at the Virginia Extension Office, and we're going to talk more about that in the next time we get together. I'll come over and visit you, and I'll look around and say, well, that sounds like a pretty interesting topic.
Sounds good.
Things that we don't know about. So it's always a great thing to bring people like yourself in to find out all the things in our community that people just don't know about. And this money chat is something that's important. Because please do it before you get before you make a decision. Sometimes it might only be just a couple minute call, and they'll answer your question pretty quick, and they'll say, yeah, that's the right direction, or well, wait, have you considered this? So.
Exactly. It's and we do have, like I was talking about the mortgage worksheet. We do have sometimes handouts that we can email you to say, okay, here's a chart that lists all the questions you should be asking this potential investment advisor, for example.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all. Remember, everyone out there, they have everyone has their own agenda,
right?
And free isn't always free. There's no such thing as a free lunch. That's that's a words of wisdom to live by.
Absolutely.
I think.
But this is free because you've already paid for it with your tax dollars.
That's right. You've already spent the money, so let's get some resource
exactly.
out of it. Whether you use it or not, you're buying it.
Right.
Well, again, Karen, thanks so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. And
Thanks
say hi to everyone at your office.
I will. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.